There are men watching this in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who feel like life has already taken more out of them than it gave back. They worked, they tried, they carried responsibility, and somehow they still feel like they're running late financially while the world moves on without them.
What am I gonna do? Everything just costs too much.
Maybe retirement feels uncertain. Maybe they're rebuilding after divorce. Maybe the support system they expected never showed up. Maybe they've started asking questions they never thought they'd ask. Is there still time to turn this around? Is there still a point in trying to build something from here? If that's you, this video is for you. Because the biggest risk when you start investing at 40, 50, or 60 is not age. It's the money trap that hits a man when he feels behind, alone, and under pressure. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to spot that trap in yourself, and how to move forward with more clarity, more self-respect, and a better chance of building real financial stability from where you are now. Picture a man of 52. He thought by now life would feel more settled than this. Instead, he's trying to rebuild. Maybe the marriage ended, maybe the house is gone, maybe the social circle shrank with it. Maybe the children are distant, busy, or simply not in a position to help. He goes to work, pays the bills, keeps moving. But underneath, there's this quiet pressure. I've worked too long to feel this uncertain. I should be further ahead than this. If I start investing now, does it even still matter? And that's exactly where a lot of men make their worst money decisions. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack intelligence, because pain changes the way time feels. It makes people wait too long, or rush too hard, or chase things they normally wouldn't, or stop believing steady progress is worth it. And that's what this channel is here to fight. Because if you're in that position, you do not need empty motivation. You need a better lens, a better mindset, and a way to move forward without shame, panic, or self-sabotage. If you've been feeling financially behind, this video will help you replace panic with a clearer investing mindset, so you can make better decisions from here, instead of punishing yourself for where you should have been. So let's go level by level, because every stage of investing has its own emotional trap, and the trap at your level will usually feel less like a flaw, and more like a perfectly reasonable reaction. That is why the trap works. Level 1, fear disguised as prudence. At the first level of investing, the emotional trap is fear, but not dramatic fear, not panic, a quieter fear, a respectable fear, the kind that speaks in calm sentences and sounds like wisdom. It says, I'm just being careful. I don't want to make a mistake. I'll invest when things are clearer. At my age, I can't afford to get this wrong. Now, to be fair, caution has value, but at this level, caution becomes a hiding place. The person tells themselves they are protecting their future, but what they may really be protecting themselves from is the discomfort of uncertainty, and those are not the same thing. Picture someone in their late 40s or early 50s who has built up savings over years of work. They know inflation is slowly eating away at it. They know they should probably be doing more than leaving it in cash. They may even watch finance videos, read books, and understand the basic case for investing. But every time they get close to acting, one thought appears. What if I do this at exactly the wrong moment? So they wait, and waiting feels safe, for a while. But months turn into years, and eventually the emotional pain of inaction becomes quieter than the emotional fear of action. That is the trap. The first trap in investing is not just fear of losing money. It is fear of feeling foolish, fear of regretting the moment you began, fear of moving from thought into exposure. Level 1 payoff. If this is your trap, here is the truth. You may not be avoiding risk. You may simply be choosing the risk that feels emotionally easier in the short term. Because doing nothing is still a decision. It just delays the evidence. And that realization can change everything. Level 2, excitement and the urge to catch up. Once people move beyond pure fear, many do not become calm and disciplined. They swing to the other side. Now the trap becomes excitement. But for many adults, especially those who feel they started later than they should have, that excitement is mixed with something deeper, urgency. Now the emotional voice says, I'm behind. I need to make up for lost time. I can't just creep forward forever. Maybe this is the opportunity that helps me catch up. And that is where trouble begins, because investing stops being about building patiently and starts becoming an attempt to repair regret quickly. Picture someone in their early 50s who only started investing seriously in the last few years. They compare themselves to people who started at 25. They think about all the loss compounding, all the missed time, all the years they were focused on work, children, bills, life. So when a fast moving opportunity appears, it doesn't just look attractive, it looks redemptive, like maybe this one decision can compress time. Maybe this one can fix the gap. That is a powerful emotion, and dangerous, because now risk starts to feel morally justified. It doesn't feel like recklessness, it feels like catching up. That is why late urgency is so persuasive. It puts pressure behind excitement. Level 2, payoff. If this trap feels familiar, remember this. Do not let regret choose your risk level. That is one of the most expensive emotional mistakes adults make. Not greed, regret dressed up as urgency. And once you can see that clearly, you stop confusing emotional pressure with opportunity. Level 3, pride disguised as conviction. At the next level, the trap becomes more sophisticated. Now it is not fear, not urgency, it is pride. This happens when people begin to feel informed, more competent, more thoughtful, more capable of forming strong views, and that is good, until knowledge becomes identity. At this level, investing is no longer just about making decisions. It becomes tied to self-respect, and once that happens, pride can quietly take over. Now the emotional voice says, I've done the work. I understand this. I know why I'm right. I'm not going to be shaken out by noise. Again, some conviction is useful. But the trap is this. Pride makes people hold on to old decisions long after reality has changed. Picture someone who researches an investment carefully. They build the thesis, they explain it clearly, maybe even speak about it with confidence to friends, family, or online. Then time passes, the facts begin to shift. A calmer investor would reevaluate, but pride resists. Because now selling is not just changing your mind, it feels like admitting that all that certainty was misplaced. For people who are used to being competent in life, in work, family, responsibility, leadership, that emotional resistance can be powerful. Because investing does not just challenge your analysis, it challenges your identity. Level 3 payoff. If pride is your trap, remember this line. Being wrong early is cheaper than protecting your pride for too long. That is a mature investor's sentence, because the market does not reward you for emotional loyalty to an old version of yourself. It rewards honest updating. Level 4. Overthinking disguised as control. This level traps a lot of intelligent adults, especially people who are naturally thoughtful, cautious, and used to solving problems well in other parts of life. The trap here is overthinking, but underneath that overthinking is something deeper, the need for control. The person wants to feel fully informed, fully prepared, fully certain. And the closer the stakes feel, retirement, family security, preserving what has been built, making fewer mistakes from here, the stronger that need becomes. So they keep learning, keep comparing, keep refining, keep waiting for the moment when they finally feel ready enough. And from the inside, that can feel responsible. But often, something else is happening. They are using research to manage emotion. As long as they are still preparing, they do not have to fully expose themselves to uncertainty. There's a type of investor who has watched the content, read the books, listened to the interviews, studied the options, compared the strategies, and still has not committed properly. Not because they are careless, because the learning gives them one thing they emotionally crave. The feeling of still being in control. That is the trap. At some point, preparation stops being progress and starts becoming protection. Level 4 payoff. If this one sounds familiar, here's the hard truth. Research can become a form of emotional procrastination. And once you can admit that, you can stop praising yourself for endless caution when what you may really be doing is delaying discomfort. That realization can unlock years of stuck energy. Level 5. Impatience disguised as high standards. Now we get to a trap that affects even disciplined investors. This one is impatience, but not the obvious kind. A more mature kind, the kind that says, I've been doing the right things. I've stayed consistent. I've been sensible. So why doesn't this feel bigger yet? This is common among adults who have finally built some discipline, but are still emotionally unsettled by the speed of progress. And that makes sense, because by midlife, time feels more visible. Years feel faster. The future feels more concrete. And even a good plan can feel emotionally slow. Picture someone in their mid-50s who is doing most things right. They invest regularly. They avoid major mistakes. They think long-term. But underneath, they feel restless. Not because the plan is broken, because their emotions are still arguing with the timeline. They want compounding, but they also want reassurance. They want patience, but they want to feel the reward sooner. And if that restlessness gets strong enough, people start changing good plans not because the plans are flawed, but because the waiting becomes emotionally uncomfortable. Level 5 payoff. If this trap is yours, remember, a good plan can feel emotionally unsatisfying in the middle. That does not make it wrong. That is one of the deepest lessons in long-term investing, because the middle is where many sound plans get abandoned. Not because they fail, because they feel too slow before they become powerful. Level 6, complacency disguised as confidence. At the higher levels, the trap becomes subtler again. Now the danger is complacency, not recklessness, not panic, complacency. This is what happens when someone has become experienced enough, steady enough, or successful enough that they begin to soften their self-awareness. They stop questioning themselves as closely. Stop reviewing assumptions as carefully. Stop sharpening the process that got them there. They do not feel careless. They feel comfortable. And comfort lowers standards quietly. Imagine someone who has done reasonably well over time. Nothing dramatic, but steady growth, better habits, calmer decisions. Over time, that can become trust and routine. And often that's fine. Until it isn't. Because complacency doesn't announce itself with noise. It whispers. It says, you know what you're doing. You've already learned the important lessons. You don't need to think so hard now. And sometimes that confidence is earned, but confidence without continued reflection becomes drift. Level 6 payoff. The higher level lesson is this. Experience is valuable, but only if it stays awake. Because emotional traps do not disappear when you become more advanced. They simply become harder to notice. So how do you protect yourself from these traps in real life? Not perfectly, but earlier. First, learn the feeling underneath your pattern. Don't just say, I hesitate, or I overthink, or I get impatient. Ask, what am I actually feeling here? Fear, regret, pride, urgency, the need for control? Because once the feeling is named, it becomes harder for it to disguise itself as wisdom. Second, listen for the story the emotion uses. Every trap comes with language. I'm being sensible. I need to catch up. I've done too much work to back out now. I just need a bit more time to be sure. I'm only changing the plan because my standards are higher. Sometimes the story sounds intelligent because it was written by emotion. Third, build decisions before the emotion arrives. Rules matter because they reduce negotiation. Contribution rules, review dates, allocation ranges, rebalancing thresholds. A calmer investor is often just an investor who decided key things before emotion entered the room. Fourth, separate your age from your panic. This matters. Being 45, 50, 55, or 60 does not mean you need to make rushed emotional decisions. Age should sharpen judgment, not increase desperation. And finally, before any meaningful investing decision, ask yourself one question. Is this coming from clarity or from a feeling I have not fully admitted yet? That question alone can prevent a lot of damage. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this. Most investing traps do not look like traps while you are inside them. They look like reasonable reactions. Fear looks like prudence. Urgency looks like ambition. Pride looks like conviction. Overthinking looks like preparation. Impatience looks like high standards. Complacency looks like confidence. That is why emotional awareness matters so much, because when you can finally name the feeling, you stop confusing it with wisdom. And that is where better investing begins. Not when you become emotionless, but when you stop allowing unexamined emotion to masquerade as strategy. Because the investor who grows is not the one who never feels fear, regret, pride, or impatience. It is the one who learns to recognize those emotions without handing them control. And in the next video, we'll go one step further into the habits that help you rise above these traps and move to the next level of investing. I hope you got something useful from this video. I'll see you in the next one. Look after yourself.